Hey guys, I'm Ryan Hootmacher. My expertise is in culinary arts and blending that with nutrition. I've been doing it for about 15 years. And today, what I really want to do is focus in on something that's simple. I want to take the pretension and the difficulty out of cooking food, and especially the foods that we should be eating more of. So today, I'm going to teach you some super nourishing techniques and recipes that are going to come together to create a humble bowl. For a full list of ingredients for this recipe, go to wellbeyondfood.com. So we're gonna do a vegetarian bowl and we're gonna rock it. So the dish that we're gonna do is a warm Brussels sprouts and cauliflower salad. And then we're gonna pair that with some crispy chickpeas, and then we're gonna make a really fresh tabbouleh. Very few ingredients, very simple and very straightforward. A warm Brussels sprouts and cauliflower salad basically means that we're gonna roast some stuff, because roasting makes all vegetables taste good. So the technique that I wanna show you is, how do we make delicious, crispy, caramelized vegetables? Well, I've preheated an oven to 400 degrees. And one of the tips that I wanna show you is, I take just regular cookie sheet pan, and I put foil over it. I put a little bit of pan spray down first so it sticks, all right? So the idea is, before I start working on my vegetables, I'm gonna toss this in the oven to preheat. So this will be scalding hot. So let's get started on our roasted veggies. I'm gonna put the big knife away for right now. It's a little cumbersome for the small cuts that we need to make. What I wanna show you is, got these fresh Brussels sprouts right here from the farmer's market. Yes, the cliche farmer's market that every chef talks about. What I wanna show you is the technique. We want to cut off the root system right there, just a little bit. We just want to shave it off because we don't want to waste any of the product. So I'm just cutting off the dirty stem part that you can see, and I'll put that in my trash bowl. Then I'm splitting it in half. So the idea here is, when we have bitter vegetables, which Brussels sprouts can be bitter, if we open them up and cut them in half, what happens is, when we roast these, the sulfur compounds that are typically really bitter and smell almost mustardy, those dissipate. And what happens is, we get more surface area to cook the Brussels sprouts, so they caramelize. Next up, we're gonna take this cauliflower. Now here's how I like to break down a cauliflower. So the thing that's really important when we're roasting is, consistency in cut size equals consistency in cook time. So it's important that we cut similar size to our Brussels sprouts so everything roasts at the same time. Now, you can save this stuff if you want to compost it, and you can actually saute this. It makes a nice stir fry, but I'm going to put it aside for now. It's completely edible. All right? So I'm exposing the rest of the cauliflower here, and here's how I like to break down a cauliflower. So I like to take the individual florets with my knife and circle around, just like this. So what that does is, it releases those florets, keeps kind of the same consistency, allows me to control. So if you can see, we have the root system right here. And once again, this goes into our stir fry area. It tastes a lot like broccoli. So you cut it up into small cubes or slivers, it's perfect. So as far as cauliflower is concerned, we're looking for about maybe ping pong size pieces, right? So really simply cut it open like this. I'm gonna make sure I do that all the way throughout. So we're gonna take the cauliflower that we just cut and throw it in with our Brussels sprouts. Easy breezy. And I'm gonna free pour some extra virgin olive oil in here. Probably like 2 tablespoons. And then what I do is, the good old-fashioned way, I'm going to get my hands in there, but I'm going to do a little pepper, a little bit of salt. Very simple, very straightforward right here. Make sure everything gets a nice coating. All right, we want to see a little bit of sheen on everything. And the reason that we want a sheen on everything is what happens is the oil intensifies when it's in a convection oven, and that's the areas that become caramelized because the friction of the heat swirling around them, that's where the caramelization comes from, where the oil adheres to. So we had our preheated oven with our preheated cookie sheet. This baby's nice and hot. So what I'm going to simply do is, you can hear the sizzle. That, my friends, is how you start to enjoy vegetables, is you get caramelization from the top, from the air, and we already have some browning that's going to be happening with the pan itself. Boom, into the oven, about 15 minutes. So next up what we're going to do is make crispy chickpeas. All right, so this is going to be the protein portion of our veggie bowl that we're making. So here is the shtick with chickpeas. All right, about a cup of these has about 15 grams of protein, which is really good, especially for a vegetable, right? It's not always about chicken. So what I want to do is, if you remember, the tip that I gave you is whenever we want flavor, we introduce heat and caramelization. That caramelization is where the flavor and the texture begin. What I did was I rinsed some chickpeas. And since they're slightly wet, what I want to do is take a kitchen towel and I want to spread these out and I would absorb the water, all right? Because remember, if it has water, then the oil can't stick. If the oil can't stick, then we don't get caramelization in the hot oven. So we're going to bring this hot sheet pan, the other one that I had preheating over, I'm just going to dump these on here. You can hear that sizzle. That's nice. That's the flavor. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of this olive oil, right? And I'm going to shuffle around this pan. I want to get everything nice and coated with that olive oil. Pretty easy, right? A little salt and pepper. And boom. About 12 to 15 minutes right in the oven with these. So we're going to cut the parsley, and once again we have a theme that's happening. And the theme is when we wash any of our vegetables, we pat them dry. All right? This is important because we want the oil and the lemon juice to cling once we make our salad. So here's the cool thing about parsley is you don't have to remove the leaves. The stems are actually very edible, and texturally they add a nice little crunch to the dish. So tabbouleh salad is traditionally easy mince on these leaves and stems. Now for those of you who are like, I'm not going to cut it like that, I can't do it that precise, practice makes permanent. Second of all, if you think you're going to use a food processor as a shortcut, that's where the trouble begins. Parsley is a nice, bitter, fresh, it's a vegetable basically. When you throw it in a food processor, it bruises it and the tannins become really bitter and inedible. So we want to avoid that. So we're looking for really simple cuts. And if you don't feel comfortable as small as I am, just do cuts like this. It's okay to have a more rustic tabbouleh. So with our fresh parsley, we want to make sure that we balance this out with a nice savory element. And I love green scallions. They are the epitome of fresh, and they just have a little bit more dimension than regular onions, right? I'm going to go ahead and do a diced tomato. And if you notice, I'm going to go really thin on these slices. Now I'm going with aroma tomato right here. If you have beefsteak tomato, that's fine too. We mainly just want this for the acidic balance and a little bit of texture. But I'm going really thin, and then I'm cutting sticks, and I want to go with like a small dice. I don't want the tomato to be the star of the show. Cool. Add another dimension of flavor, very traditional to Middle Eastern cuisine, is fresh mint. We want to take the mint leaves off and leave the stem behind, okay? Easy way to do this is to just strip the leaves downward, right? Or once you get to the top, you can just pluck it at the top. I like a nice ratio of about maybe 4 cups of parsley to 1 cup of mint. Just gather everything up, pinch it all together, and we're going to go really small cuts on this into the tabbouleh. So what's great about this recipe is the fact that while the vegetables and the chickpeas are roasting, we worked on the tabbouleh salad. So the timing, if it works out, I'm coming over here and I'm getting ready to pull my vegetables out. So before I pull the roasted vegetables out, I'm going to do a little bit of olive oil. I'm going to add some honey. That honey is going to help balance some of the bitterness and the nuttiness that's inside of those vegetables, right? Because they're from the cabbage family. Then we've got a little bit of Dijon mustard. All right, that's going to add some body and a little bit of tang. It's going to help emulsify this dressing. And then for a little savory note, a little spice, we're going to do some cumin. But if you want to do smoked paprika, that's a nice swap out. Then I'm going to add a little bit of salt and pepper to this, because you always want to season a vinaigrette of sorts. What makes a vinaigrette is to have some type of acidity. And in this case, we're going to use some fresh lemons. Actually fresh from the tree in the backyard. We're in California right now, so why not? So this acidity is going to help balance everything out. So with the vinaigrette that we made, I'm going to add a little bit of an herbaceous note. So we have the cumin in there for spice, but I'm going to take some of these fresh green scallions and mix those in. And that's going to boost the savory element to make these roasted vegetables even more delicious. Let's take a look at these guys. Oh, that's nice. So what I want to show you is we have varying levels of char. So this, my friends, is flavor. Now, if you want, you can shove these back into the oven so we can get more that have this char. As you can see, some are more charred than others. But for the sake of what we're doing, we'll just go ahead and we'll get going here. Now here is our vinaigrette. Notice I'm going onto the hot pan itself. I want these to stay warm while we're waiting for the rest of the components for this bowl to come together. So what I'm simply going to do is take this and swirl this around. And I have almost like a really nice honey mustard smell that's going on. Very earthy. Who doesn't like honey mustard, by the way? That sweet, savory, tangy action, that's where it's at. To complete our tabbouleh salad, we need to bring together some type of dressing, some kind of vinaigrette for it, okay? So what I'm going to do is take garlic. I'm going to use my knife and smash it down, just like this. I want to make a paste of sorts, okay? Now, if you don't really like this technique or it's a little difficult, you can use a microplane or you can use kind of a cheese grater and you get the same effect. Okay, so I want a paste. The more surface area that I allow to break this down, the more of those essential oils and the flavor that gets released. Next up, take some more lemon. Take this, let my fingers be the catcher for the seeds. Super fresh. Get this other one here. We're going to add a little bit of olive oil. So let's finish this vinaigrette for the tabbouleh. A little salt, a little pepper, a little whisk. Everybody in the pool. Dressing goes in, and it's time to meld these flavors. What's great is the salt is actually going to help bring out some of the moisture of the parsley. And so as that happens, all these flavors are going to begin to meld. Okay. All right. We pulled our crispy chickpeas out of the oven, and we're bringing it all together right now. So let's plate this up. So we're gonna start with these delicious roasted Brussels sprouts and cauliflower. We have some really great color on here, and we have that honey mustard flavor. So we have those delicious roasted vegetables. Now we're gonna go with our refreshing tabbouleh salad. Add some volume to this and some color. I believe in chewy textures and creamy textures. So whether you want to use yogurt or maybe even a little store-bought hummus, this is going to add a nice element for texture that you're going to fall in love with. And finally, oh my God, these chickpeas, listen. I'm going to go just a heaping load of these on here. If you want more, go more. That is a huge bowl. And if you want, do a little drizzle there. And if you want to put a little extra lemon juice on top, that is where it's at. This, my friends, is clean comfort. So this is the roasted Brussels sprouts and cauliflower salad with crispy chickpeas and tabbouleh.